Hey students, it's Mr. Lane coming at you here with the History Department to talk about the independent study that we have planned for you for our Cold War unit. It's going to be a simple slideshow review here. Hopefully this is also reviewed in your classes. To start, right, in order to complete the independent study, what you're going to want to do, because the topics are very detailed from the notes you've been taking in class, you're going to want to first be reviewing the 1201 Cold War lessons. Doing those are going to help you narrow down the topic of your choice and the best avenue for you to be doing the project your best. If you ever need to go back and watch this video explanation, a link to it is going to be right here on this slideshow that is being reviewed in class. And you probably want to have this slideshow, the rubric, and the graphic organizer open in separate tabs so that you can be the best prepared to be doing your work. So, to get started, right, the Cold War independent study that we're doing, we want to kind of give you a brief summary of what we're learning about, the stuff that's covered in the lessons. But the Cold War was a period of tense events and various conflicts between the Soviet Union and the United States. They were both really trying to prevent the spread of the other's economic system. The big ones being the differences between capitalism and communism. And so, when we think about how it affects us today and why we need to learn about this, a lot of the modern day alliances that we have, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, if anybody has heard of that, was really founded because of a Cold War alliance to help out our alliances in Europe and prevent them from falling to communism as the Soviet Union gained more influence. So understanding the Cold War helps us really understand what the world looks like today. With this topic, right, the Soviet Union, while it collapsed in the early 1990s, the United States and Russia, the country that emerged from the Soviet Union, still engage in some of these tense moments. This article links to an event in March in which Russian spy plane had to be diverted off the coast of Alaska near the United States. As we kind of continue to battle for influence today, it's definitely not as hot or cold, for example, as the Cold War was in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, but definitely still a very tense relationship. So here's the question, right? In kind of a PBL sense, here's the question we're trying to answer for you guys. How could you, as an author, artist, or vlogger, tell the story of a Cold War event in a way that captures the lesson of the topic/event? So here are our topics that you guys are being given, and they should all look very familiar because because these are the ones you have taken your notes on. If you do, go back and, like I said, do 1201 Cold War lessons first. So the topics kind of going in order chronologically as well. The Berlin Airlift, which happened shortly after World War II in the 1940s, followed by the Korean War, which was in the 1950s. The Berlin Wall, which was constructed in 1961 but wasn't torn down until 1989, 1990. The Cuban Missile Crisis, an event that took place in the early 60s under President Kennedy. The Vietnam War was a 20-year conflict, but that took place between the 1950s and 1970s. The space race, getting into space and landing on the moon, which the United States and the Soviet Union played a huge impact in, and the battle really there of who can get there first and who can be best. The topic of espionage, which isn't really dedicated to any specific year, but spying on each other, on each of these countries, was a huge goal, was to find out who's up to what and what they're doing, and how can we possibly know their secrets. The topic of McCarthyism, which is really about, kind of a witch hunt in which people were being identified as communists that might not have actually been communists. People's lives and careers were destroyed because of some of these accusations. So these are your topics, right? These are your topics, and you can kind of look for additional topics as well, but these are the 8 or so topics that we want you to stick to. If you find an additional topic that you would like to look into, you have to have it cleared by your history teacher before doing so. right? So if your topic is not on this list, the topic that you're most interested in, then you can do that. However, it must be cleared by your history teacher. So check in with them and run the topic before you begin. So here's the process that we're looking at for this product, right? Is first you want to pick your topic. If it's not on that list, get it approved. Then you're going to do some research. Use the graphic organizer, which we're going to go over in just a moment here. And then we have added a little special event for you. We think it's going to be really cool for you to be able to interview a family member. I know that sounds like a tough task, but it's easier than you think in that, some of these events are pretty recent. If you were to go ask your parents what their life or their daily life was like during some of these events, even if they were living in a country that wasn't even connected to the event, they might have had seen some impact. These events did have global impact on a big scale. So you could interview parents or even grandparents, and they probably were alive during some of these events. They should be able to share kind of what their stories are like. And so if you, on the graphic organizer, when we review that, you'll see some of the questions. You're not going to be limited to those questions, but you'll see some questions just to ask and kind of do some inquisitive research, see how maybe your family was impacted. And then you'll create your final project or product. So again, choosing your topic, right? If you want to use a different event, it must be approved by your teacher. Read about your topic in the ABC Clio database. Here are your password, username and password. Fairfax. Pretty easy to remember. And then begin your graphic organizer. So let's take a look at that graphic organizer, like I said. So that's your topic catalog. Here's your graphic organizer, right? And the topic catalog, to go back, right? The topic catalog gives you kind of detailed descriptions of the 8 events that I mentioned and the years that they roughly happened. So that'll give you more information, but you're going to want to review the lessons as well to get even further knowledge. Going on the graphic organizer, right? The graphic organizer idea here is to pick your topic, do the research. Here's that family interview, like I said. So I'm going to read the directions. Due to the recent occurrence, because all these events were in the last 75 years of many of these topics, it is quite likely that your parents, grandparents, or a family friend lived through some of them, even if they were not in the United States. Arrange a phone call and see if you can ask them about their experiences. Ask them some of these questions, plus other questions you can come up with on your own. How old were they at the time of the event? Optional question. Where were they living at the time of the event? What were they doing during/throughout the event? Work, college, just growing up, being a child? How did they first hear about the event? Was it news? Was it a personal experience? Did they follow the outcome or did they not pay attention? How did they follow it? Why were they interested? How did it impact their daily life or routines? Did they, for example, right, today when we go to school we have fire drills and lockdown drills, but a lot of people during the Cuban Missile Crisis, for example, a lot of students had duck and cover drills in which they had to hide under their desks at the sound of blaring missile noises or blaring alarms that a missile might be incoming. So you kind of imagine that, just like we have fire drills today, they had these types of drills that were designed or that disrupted daily life. And again, then you have options to choose, or a couple options to choose from in terms of what product you will create. You can write a short story, right, using some literary elements from class, so metaphors, simile, hyperbole, onomatopoeia. You could draw a picture, right, so do a recreation of what the event looked like, possibly from the perspective of one country. Or you could do a flip grid, be a vlogger, for example. Tell us about the importance of your chosen topic and its worldwide impact. So again, that kind of tells you a little bit about the project itself, what you'll be creating. But I think the biggest new piece that this Independence Day has is that family interview component, as well as you have the same options that we had for the Civil Rights Movement to create. We're going to take a look at the rubric here in just a minute. But again, I'm going to skip forward before we get to the rubric. The project must include a summary of your topic, researched and factually correct information about your event, information from a primary source connection, so that's that family interview piece, so hopefully you're getting information from family members, friends, and so forth. And then follow all the directions on your product choice, right? So follow these directions that are listed beneath each product. Remember, you can create one of the following, so you're going to choose one of the following. So for example, you could create be an author, a historical fiction short story that centers around your chosen event, a painting or drawing that captures and summarizes your chosen event, so you could be an artist, or you could be a vlogger, a Flipgrid video that explains and summarizes the importance and impact of your chosen event on the world at the time. Moving backward here to the rubric, right? The rubric looks very similar. Our goal is to get proficient in all the categories. There are 6 categories. If you get, you'll notice that proficient score means 2 points. Attempted is 1 point, and not attempted is 0 points. So if you get 10 out of 12 points, that's an overall proficient grade in SIS. So that means you need to get at least 4 proficients, and you can get 2 attempteds, and then you would have the score of proficient. And if you have any questions outside of that, you can contact your history teachers during office hours. We're here to help. We hope you guys are all doing well during this time, and we look forward to seeing you in class. Bye.